All right, friends. So welcome back. Thank you all for your patience as well. Um, Please go ahead and say hello in the chat. If you're new, please introduce yourself in the chat for my benefit, I guess, and secondarily for everyone else's benefit. But I would love to see who's new in the space tonight as we begin. Um, yeah. Um, For those of you who are new, again, I'm Lama Rod, just in case you weren't sure about that. And I use he, him pronouns. I'm on the ancestral lands of the Creek, Cherokee, and Muskogee people. Um, I'm also led to assume that I'm also situated on the unmarked graves of Confederate soldiers. I have some evidence to suggest that. So, well, um, and this is Medicine Buddha. Thank you all so much for being here. And welcome to those who I've been meeting in my travels um, as well. So for those of you who I met in New York last week, was it last week? It sure, well, no, it wasn't. It was the week before. Oh my God. So welcome to those of you who I met in New York. Those of you who I was practicing with at Kripalu, welcome into the space. I've been talking at Medicine Buddha to everyone. We're going to get started pretty soon once we get into the space kind of situated and settled. So again, if you're new to the practice, this is a guided practice. Um, I would say some pretty substantial energy work happens. Um, some of you may be journeying to other realms, which is normal. There may be some portals opening in your space. So if that freaks you out, just ignore it. Everyone else does. Um, Especially if you're a mindfulness practitioner, you love to ignore a lot of shit, don't you? Um, and that was just in case you didn't realize that was a direct jab at my mindfulness folks. So in case that slips, I was making fun of you. Um, no, I'm just kidding. Just I'm just kidding. But this is a practice based upon the tradition of Medicine Buddha. A Buddha, a real Buddha, right? Um, that the Buddha, the historical Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, introduced, and a tradition or a practice that feels very close to me as well. So again, um, guided practice, no text or anything, and just really just encourage you just to kind of relax. I mean, just relax, take it easy. This is the work of healing. And healing is already laborious, right? And then you get into the work, you get into the sensation of healing. It can feel really kind of unsettling. And the best way that we work with that is just by opening, relaxing, releasing, letting go, settling into the seat, letting the earth and the seat rise to hold you, letting the blessings of this very profound lineage um, really meet you. Like, let the blessings meet you. Um, and of course, I think about this teaching from the Buddha um, called, well, I call it the compassion hook. People may know it as something different. But so the idea is that the compassion of the Buddha is like a hook, you know, and the hook is like dangling above you, right? And the idea is that the hook doesn't just drop down to get you, like, and get you hooked. The idea is that you have to meet the hook. So you have to extend, you have to reach to connect to the compassion, right? And I really like that because I think we're doing something really similar in this practice. That yeah, I'm saying yeah, relax, open, settle. At the same time, there's an intention that helps us to lean into this work as well. You know, I have to do the work of opening. I have to do the work of consenting, right? And I want us to take that seriously. Do you consent to being healed? Right? In the same way, do you consent to getting free? Right. And we've talked about this over and over and over again. I don't want to belabor the point, you know. Um, I don't think I've ever used belabored in a sentence before, which is strange to think about. But I just actually strangely like how it sounds coming out of my mouth, belabor. It's not the point. The point is, you know, you have to consent to the work. Like you can't be forced to do the work. The work can't just land on you and you're just like, oh my God, why am I doing this? You have to say yes at some point, right? You have to say yes, right? Um, and for me, that yes, it just feels like a really profound opening. It's really like energetic opening, right? But saying yes to the healing or saying yes to the blessings of the practice means that you have to practice vulnerability. I know some of us aren't into being vulnerable right now because, how do we survive if we're vulnerable? Here's the question, how are you going to survive if you're not vulnerable, right? That's the tricky, contradictory part of vulnerability. It's like you have to be vulnerable to get anywhere, but the vulnerability doesn't mean that we don't have boundaries set up. It doesn't mean I'm just completely wide open. It means that I'm getting clear about what is conducive to healing and liberation and what isn't. And if it's not conducive, then it doesn't get in, or I don't consent to it, right? But to sit and to practice vulnerability, right, is to start letting go just in your personal practice, in your personal space, starting to let go of all these walls that you've erected, all the ways in which you keep bypassing the real suffering, the heartbreak, as we talk about over and over. You should be sick of me talking about heartbreak. You should be like, oh my God, heartbreak, heartbreak. I will keep talking about heartbreak until your heart breaks, fully, completely, utterly like falling to a million pieces, right? Which is what happened to Chinrezi, another one of our meditational deities and tantric deities, right? Like if the practice of Chinrezi it starts with Chinrezi as this almost Buddha becoming so heartbroken and disappointed that he just falls or they fall into like a million pieces. When are we going to allow that kindness for ourselves to fall apart? You know, like when are we going to do that? Because we put in all this effort to stay put together and it doesn't get us anywhere. All this effort is just a performance that is actually for other people, right? I can't fall apart because this is going to make other people uncomfortable, right? And we have to start disrupting some of that belief. Like if I had to wait around for people to be okay with my decisions to get free, I would not have been able to do anything. You know how many people gave me permission to go into 3-year retreat? I can count them on one hand. They were all monastics. You know? They were all people who had already done it before. So, like I wasn't sitting around waiting for people to consent for this to say. I was like, I'll see y'all later. You know, I told my family, I was like, listen, I have things to do, and sitting around arguing with y'all about your belief that I'm going into a cult is not what I'm doing. Right? Of course, everyone who's in a cult says the same thing, right? So that was the dilemma. That's why I couldn't just stay around and argue because I couldn't win it. I couldn't win the argument because I was actually joining a cult. you know? But then I was like, but you have to trust me. And then you keep hearing yourself say these things. And you're like, oh, I'm really deep in this. I just should just go away. I'll just go and do it. I'll prove them wrong after the fact. you know? I'll just finish it, leave the monastery and say, look, I wasn't in a cult, nor was I brainwashed. You know, I wasn't brainwashed, but I did become more difficult, which is probably not what my family wanted either. I think they would have more preferred me being brainwashed than becoming more difficult. Strangely enough, I've forgotten what I'm talking about. Freedom, consenting. Yes, consenting. Right. Um, I think one of the hardest things for us to deal with is that, we have to make decisions around freedom and healing. And it may mean leaving people behind. It may mean evolving into a certain expression that seems to be outside of people's experience. When you get real healed, people stop understanding you because they're not at that place. They don't understand the fluidity in the space and the agency that you have after you've committed to real healing work. And they get distrustful of you. You become suspects, right? Because you're no longer self-identifying with the suffering. You're beginning to understand the suffering is just an experience, right? And that's suspicious for people whose whole identity is based around self-identification with trauma and suffering, you know? How can you be happy when the world is what it is right now? You know, like how can you possibly find joy and gratitude or happiness in a world that seems so dark? Because I'm not identifying with the suffering of the world any longer. This is not who I am, right? This is just an experience. The darkness that we perceive is an experience. It's not inherently the essence of everything. The essence of everything is emptiness. So essentially, everything's already liberated. Right? We're already free. We're already Buddhas. Right? We're just trying to remember that we've gotten distracted with suffering and with phenomena. Right? We've condensed down to the sense of ego and self, which is not this autonomous self. It's just this bundle of sensations and thoughts and feelings, right? Just bundled and pressurized together until we start believing that, oh, this is something, I am something. You know, you're not the constriction and the rigidity, you're the space, right? So do this, everyone do this thing. So we've done it before. Um, Start with just do a little limp wrist just because it feels good. This is that's not the mudra. But anyway, so get the wrist going. I feel so sorry for you new folks. I'm so sorry. Like this is just it feels like a long running joke that you don't get. I'm so sorry for that. I hate entering spaces where I don't get the joke, but I don't think anyone else gets it either except for me. But no, for real, let's take it seriously. Y'all stop distracting me. So ball up your fist, ball up your fist. As tight as you can get it with it being appropriate for you, right? So feel that constriction. Literally, this is how most of us are moving through the world. really constricted, really shut down, really rigid. And you know what you do with this kind of rigidity? Like you punch people, you punch things. Like this is how we are. The reactive punching, this is what happens when you're balled up like this, you're reactive. And whatever's triggering a reaction, you go for it, you know? So feeling that, and then just slowly beginning to just open like your palm and feeling that space, feeling the air, feeling the coolness, right? And does that correspond? Like do you feel this opening in your body as well? Like when you begin to open your palm, do you feel your body opening? Because this is what vulnerability is. It's the letting go of the constriction and opening, right? And then everything is really present and clear, right? And you feel everything, right? Well, not everything, but like you begin to feel more, right? And experience more, right? To move through the world with openness like this. Like these are mudras or hand gestures they're about generosity and openness and care, like open palms, you know? Like I'm open, right? And it opens you up to receiving a lot of energy like this as well. This is a mudra where you're like a lot of energy moves through the palms as well. But to feel this kind of fluid exchange with the phenomenal world, like I'm just open and I'm feeling like the energies around me, inside of me, right? This is the gesture of receiving as well. I'm ready for the world to offer to me, right? I'm also ready to give to the world what it needs. But nothing ain't happening when you're like this, right? Like you're just like, you're gonna punch someone out. Anyway, so open. And when I do that, I feel like a real, like a lot of emotional kind of fluidity when I do this. Because for me, over the years of like, yeah, working with these practices, working with like these kind of somatic kinds of exercises, it's like I can really get into this. I can really tune into this. So when I'm opening like this, like I am opening actually to one of the first things I open to is the heartbreak, right? And you may say, oh, why? Like, why do you go to the heartbreak first? Because I want above everything in my life, above all of my experiences, I know that my heartbreak is the most untended to, under recognized, under cared for experience in my life. And so I've trained myself to go to the heartbreak first, where I'm just opening like this, and to touch that, and to recognize it and say, there you are. And I just want to name you. Like, I just want to name you, right? And I'm talking to the heartbreak, right? Dear heartbreak, I just want to name you as I open. I want to feel into you because this is really the only thing that you want. You want me to name you and to experience you. And this is a part of my daily, um, like grief practice, as I've talked about often. Like my daily grief practice is just opening and touching into the heartbreak and giving the heartbreak space, not thinking of the heartbreak as something inconvenient, as something that feels like a punishment. I think of it as something that is asking for care, for attention, for space, right? And sometimes, right, the healing that happens is not necessarily for the heartbreak to decrease or to go away, because that won't ever happen. I'm sorry, like that's not going to happen. The heartbreak is going to be there, right? But what I am trying to do in my practice is change my relationship to the heartbreak. Because in Buddhism, all we're doing is trying to change our relationship to the thing itself. And once our relationship shifts or changes, then the thing itself changes. Like, and where I know it sounds like we think the real path is somehow bypassing our relationship and getting to the thing itself. Like, I just want to get to the thing. Like with anger, some of you are in this, in the current love and rage course, right? Um, and it's like, no, it's when I came out with love and rage, I think people were just like, oh my God, this is a revelation. I'm like, no, this just feels very basic. I think this is very basic Buddhism, you know? Because it's like, no, the anger isn't the problem. It's my relationship to the anger that's the problem, right? So all I'm trying to do is change my relationship to anger, to heartbreak, to everything, right? And then the thing itself begins to change. It begins to evolve because I'm not fixated on it, trying to get it to do something. Like you can't force shit to happen in this practice, right? This is not a path of forcing anything to happen, right? This is a path, well, a high teaching here is that this is the path of non-doing, right? And this is something, if you do Mahamudra for the people, this is something you all work on all the time. This is the path of non-doing. Mahamudra is non-doing. Practice is non-doing. It's a natural openness, a natural expression, just being. That just being is how our relationship to the phenomenal world begins to change, right? This is super, super, super subtle, right? And for those of you who are new, it sounds super impossible. I just want to say that, like, I've been exactly where you've been, right? Coming into these spaces, coming into meditation for the first time, and my mentors and elders would be like, blah, 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 yeah, 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 all the stuff that I'm saying, freedom, constriction, contraction, relationships, the thing itself. I was like, all this seems impossible. I don't get this, And this is my hand gesture for like being confused. I'm confused. Some of you actually do this. I'm confused. But my God, I'm confused. But this is why you practice, because practice is how we begin to deeply embody and internalize this transformation, right? So I didn't understand. I know I'm working with some of you around the intellect and understanding in our daily word on the website and the community piece. And this is what I'm talking about here. It's just like I don't have to understand something to hold space for it. I don't even have to understand freedom to get free, because it's a felt experience. Freedom is a felt experience. I don't understand freedom, but I can feel it. And the feeling of freedom becomes like the North Star, like the guiding stars. Like, yeah, I know what space feels like. I know what fluidity feels like. I know what agency feels like. I know what holding space for everything. I know what all that feels like. I may not understand it, but I can feel it. And that feeling begins to guide me deeper into this experience of freedom, liberation, right? So much of the healing is about this, about the opening, the expansion, the changing of relationship. Yeah, this hurts, right? We can tune into the trauma a little bit and say, oh yeah, this is real, this hurts, this is real fucked up. I can't believe that this is here. And it's okay. The first thing we say, you know what, it's okay. And I've given this teaching so many times before as well, but this profound mantra, I guess it's in Love and Rage, the mantra, the practice of okay as a mantra. It's okay. It's one of the kindest things that we can offer to ourselves when we're dealing with this, what seems like insurmountable suffering and trauma. We first say, you know, it's okay. It's okay. Right? It's okay that like some of us are in this period and we're so overwhelmed by everything. And we don't know what to say. We don't know what to do. Right? That's understandable because you're still trying to process all of this. Like the old world systems and these old institutions, they're giving way, you know? And with that disruption comes a lot of overwhelming grief. Because again, we're so self-identified with the phenomenal world, or we're so self-identified with systems and institutions, and we're so self-identified with the suffering that when any of that begins to shift, it feels like we're dying. You know? And I do believe, yeah, on one hand, I do believe that everyone needs to be working, everyone needs to be speaking out, doing what they need to do. And at the same time, understanding trauma, I understand that like how difficult that is for many people at the same time, you know, to make sense of things. Again, I'm not trying to understand, I'm just trying to feel it. You know, I'm trying to acknowledge and say, here's something, right? And it's taking a lot of energy, a lot of labor to kind of lean towards this. Right? But feel the space opening because this is the practice has already started. Right? Like I snuck it in, so you weren't even when we're all flipping our wrists around, and lo and behold, the practice has started. You're like, I didn't come here to feel bad. You know, I'm not trying to make you feel bad, you know, but I'm not going to support you in running away from shit. You know, this is not the nature of practice, particularly medicine Buddha or any Buddha, actually, right? The space opens and then we get the material, or the space opens and we get the mud. And we have to start working that mud and giving rise to a lotus. Ain't no mud, no lotus, honey. If you ain't ready to get dirty, you ain't ready to get free, honey. Right? You might as well come and start rolling around in this, trying to make it work. Because this mud ain't just going to disappear by itself. Right? No mud, no, you know, no mud, no lotus. Right? You're trying to stay clean and pure. You're trying to stay well put together and presentable. That's not freedom work. That's performances. You know, that you do that on stages. You do that at the drag show. You create illusions. Right? But let those illusions go because those illusions is how we fucking got here. You know, we got so good at performances, we started believing in it. And now we're trying to divest from that belief, right? This is the hardest teaching for some of us, I think, because the heartbreak means that you will fall apart. right? You will fall apart. But you know what the great thing about falling apart is? Is that there are so many beings ready to catch us, right? In the same way Chenrezig fell into 1,000 million pieces, and then Amitabha showed up and was like, girl, what's going on? You fell apart. you know, let me put you back together, right? That's the blessing. You get to come back together in a form that's so much more resilient and so much more fluid. Like you fall apart, and in the falling apart, you're letting go of the shit you don't need anymore. And the identities that no longer serve you and the beliefs that get in the way, right? Heartbreak and tending to the heartbreak takes us to reality, the stark, basic, straightforward reality. And there's no kinder, more profound blessing than touching reality, touching the ground, right? Touching the earth itself and saying, wait, this is where I'm starting, right here. Where then that's reality is where the truth is, right? And what bothers me, what breaks my heart to an extent, is that like there are so many people who won't choose that work in this life, and so they'll continue moving through these cycles, life after life. Right? And there's no guarantee. It's like it's. I mean, I learned that growing up well before Buddhism. There's no guarantees about anything. Like, who knows what's going to happen in the next life? Who knows what's going to happen in transition into the bardo of the spirit world? Who knows? But what I do know now is that we have this space to practice, right? We have this space to make choices that is exactly like planting seeds that we begin to water and tend to, and those seeds will sprout into a harvest, right? That's the only thing, that's what we have control over is the second. The practice, the praying, the mantras, the opening, the care, the love, the equanimity, the joy that we can choose now, that begins to or create the causes and conditions rather for a different kind of future, hopefully a future that's more liberated, right? A future that hopefully will take us out of the cycle of birth and death and sickness and old age, out of delusion, right? Touching the ground, coming to the ground, right? And you can't get there if you're always running away from the heartbreak. So let's go, let's continue, let's get deeper. Um, Again, just a reminder, we have the prayer stock, which I'll offer prayers for as well as we get into our practice. So if you want a prayer offered by me, go ahead and put that in the doc. All right. So again, let's starting at the top. I just invite you to contemplate why you're practicing. And don't feel as if you need to work really hard, because I'm going to tell you what to contemplate. So you're going to contemplate that you're only practicing to get free from suffering, to help others get free from suffering, to reduce harm and violence against yourself, to reduce that same harm and violence against others, to get clear, to embody compassion and love, to experience emptiness itself. That's why you're practicing. Right? And it's best if you align your aspiration up with this aspiration, because if not, you're going to get confused in the practice. Particularly when you get real comfortable and I shift you into discomfort, you're going to be cussing me out seriously because I'm not here for that. I'm here to keep moving us into these experiences of liberation, right? And again, you don't have to understand this. Sometimes we have to fake it till we make it. It's a very dangerous teaching, but this also can be quite generative as well. You fake it till you make it. I think some of us take that too far, obviously. But for now, we can use it to an extent. So I'm practicing to get free, to help others get free. And let that aspiration awaken in you. Right? This is where this kind of spiritual abolition work really begins. I have to understand that the only worthwhile goal is liberation, enlightenment, freedom. Right? That is the most important offering that you can make to anyone, is helping them get free from suffering. But we have to learn what it means for us to start divesting from our own experiences of suffering. So I first am practicing to experience freedom from suffering. And then I can help others get free from suffering. And as you make that aspiration, think about all the countless beings, including Medicine Buddha, who have made the same aspirations, and the beings who daily make the same aspiration, that you're among this universal community of beings who are trying to transcend the causes and conditions of suffering and to help others do the same. And if all beings, I mean, not even all, even if half the beings on this planet had this deep aspiration in whatever tradition and path that they're following, this world would be so different. You know, just half of the people, probably even less. And when we consent to doing this work around liberation, we're also consenting to the work of healing, transforming my relationship to the thing itself, to suffering itself. And to go deeper, touching, connecting to the seat, noticing the weight of the body, and the seat rising to meet your body. And we're going to continue. We'll continue with the first mantra, the opening mantra of Third Medicine Buddha, Om Namah Sangye Ki no Soha, which you'll see in the chat box. And of course, that translates into Medicine Buddha, please think of me, look at me, remember me. Right? And this mantra, we can imagine using this mantra to start calling in the blessings of Medicine Buddha, or to begin to call in the actual consciousness of Medicine Buddha. All the Buddhas are simultaneously present, right? But with this mantra, we're tuning into the particular frequency of Medicine Buddha to do particular work around healing. So we'll begin with chanting Om, and then going to the mantra 3 times, and then ending with another extended Om. Okay. So we begin by just taking a full inhale and exhale. And then on the next inhale, we'll start chanting Om. Okay. Om la sange ki no so Om la sange ki no so Om la sange ki no so So just resting for a few seconds here and just noticing any shift or change in the energy around you or inside of you. Just noticing. And so when you're ready, shifting your attention to the space around you. And slowly we begin to imagine that the space around us begins to be populated by all of our benefactors. And these are all the beings who love us, who care for us, who want us to be free, including all the Buddhas, all the Bodhisattvas, and Dharma protectors, and so forth and so on. Benevolent ancestors, elders, guides, all the beings who love us, even friends, family, partners, kids, anyone, pets. And so you're just slowly beginning to imagine that you're just surrounded by all these beings who love you. And they begin to radiate the energy of deep care for you. And that deep care begins to fill up the space around you. So the space becomes imbued and saturated with this expression of care from all the beings who love you. And imagine how the space is being filled up with this care. You can imagine that light begins to fill the space, or maybe warmth as a feeling begins to fill up the space, or whatever feels appropriate. Or you don't have to imagine anything at all. the key here is having faith or trusting that this care is being radiated into the space around us. Just another couple seconds here. Again, just allow the space to be deeply filled with the energy of care. And so as we go a little bit deeper into the practice, so I invite you to imagine that in the space in front of you, so maybe like, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet in the space in front of you, all this energy of care begins to be concentrated into this orb of light in the space just above you, in front of you. I don't know who's having what experience right now, but I'm not taking responsibility for that one. But again, this like space opens up in front of you, and this, again, it's like all this energy of care gets concentrated into like a ball of light. This is like, I have this little, like a little sphere of light in front of you, just a little bit of a guide that's right in front of you. And of course, you can imagine this in the space above you. And so next, so having this belief or a vision of this sphere of light, which is just all the concentrated energy of care offered by our benefactors, return back to our motivations for practice. Again, practicing to experience freedom from suffering for ourselves, for others, trying to get free, and helping others get free. Remembering that aspiration and really trying to take that aspiration seriously. And as we offer this aspiration, we begin to imagine that this sphere of light, this ball of light, slowly begins to transform into Medicine Buddha. And in your practice, as we always do, allowing this representation of Medicine Buddha to be whatever feels appropriate for you in your practice. Right? So you can do the traditional kind of representation of Medicine Buddha, this traditional image of a blue Buddha, on a seat, on a lotus seat in monk's robes and so forth. Or just any expression of what I call the archetypal healer. because medicine Buddha and any Buddha can take the form of anything, especially anything that feels more aligned with our own belief systems and familiarity. So this form of medicine Buddha is taking form in front of you in the space above you. And this medicine Buddha can be as big as you want. Sky's the limit, literally. And once that expression of medicine Buddha forms, right, we turn our attention to their heart centers. And their heart centers begins to radiate this light, this soft glowing white light. And this light is not only the expression of deep care and love for us and all beings, but is also an expression of their healing blessings as well, which they will slowly begin to share with us in our practice. So we turn our attention back to ourselves. And I invite you just to reflect on something that you are needing support with or around, be it sickness, illness, conflicts, grief, worry about others. What do you need support around? What do you need right now? And allow that need, the energy of that need, to awaken within your heart center. And it feels as if when this need, the energy of this need begins to awaken, in the upper chest here, it's going to feel like it's trying to draw in resources or healing, right? But feels like even like a portal that's kind of sucking air into it, right? So turning our attention back to the medicine Buddha in front of us, medicine Buddha begins to respond to the need, to this depletion that we've awakened and really just brought attention to because it's always there. And this need, this depletion in our heart center begins to draw this healing light of medicine Buddha into our heart centers. So it feels as if there's this stream of light flowing from the medicine Buddha in front of us down into our heart centers. And we're beginning to feel as if we're being deeply filled with this energy of care, but also this energy of deep healing, as if we're drinking deeply from a stream of clear, pure water. So just opening and allowing that stream of energy to begin to tend to the needs that we're identifying. And so continuing to allow that energy to flow into your heart center from Medicine Buddha, we'll transition into our main mantra, which is Om Tea Tam Bekense, Maha Bekense, Rasa Sumu Gate Soha. And the mantra is right in the chat box, and you can sit and listen or chat along with me. And we'll begin. O Tea Tam Bekense. Bekense, Ma Bekense, Rasa Sumu Gate Soha. Tea Bekense, bekense, ma bekense, rasa sumungate soa. Te anda bekense, bekense, ma bekense, rasa sumungate soa. Te anda bekense, 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 rasa sumugante 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 soa. turning just our attention to our prayer requests. And again, calling into the space all our Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, the Yidam, the Dharma protectors, all beings of light, all the elders and spirits and guardians of the land and all the elements, all benevolent ancestors, all of our descendants. Right? We pray that you come into the space and begin to hold the prayers that we offer, not just for ourselves, but for all of our beloveds, both in this life and also those who have passed into the bardo and spirit world. We're offering prayers to the 3 young Palestinian men for their full and complete healing and recovery. May they be surrounded by fierce love and care, prayers to their families, prayers and protection for all beings. Offering prayers to let go of this pain I'm holding on to, prayers to let go of the fear and have the courage to give it all to the Mother. Prayers to let myself be transformed by love. Offering prayers for my mother's healing, for her broken leg. May she find strength in the resting. Offering prayers for peace on earth and for all beings. Offering prayers for my Aunt Cherie, who started dialysis and is having heart issues. Offering prayers for Mother Jane. Offering prayers for my cousin's dog Nezzy, who was put to sleep on Saturday. Offering prayers for beings affected by my offense. Offering prayers for people I need to say no to. Offering prayers for those friends who I share unhealthy habits of drug use with. Offering prayers for my mom's comfort and safety while she is in the hospital, that she gets good care. Offering prayers for all my alive beloveds, that they find enough care that they too can fall apart and get free. Offering prayers for all of our benefactor circles and gratitude. Offering prayers for my husband to find work that suits him. Offering prayers for my daughter that she be held by those who love her for her whole life and that she find good community throughout life. Offering prayers for me and my budding vocation to chaplaincy, that I am shown what I need to see, that the path is for me, be opened for me. For prayer, offering prayers for all the parents who have lost their children at the hands of others' hate, and for all the children who have lost their parents at the hands of others' hate, that they not grow more hate, that they are held by love and not succumb to generational hatred. Offering prayers that I may be healed in body, mind, and spirit as quickly and gently as possible. Offering prayers for Clem as they recover from surgery, for the Dodd family and all Palestinians. Prayers for Dinde and their back. Prayers for my ability to remain resourced and of service. Offering prayers for my childhood self and the roots of my shame and guilt. Offering prayers for Nicole through her chemotherapy and recovery. Prayers for a healthier relationship with my mother. Offering prayers for the 3 young Palestinian people shot in Burlington this weekend. May they make a full recovery and have all the support and love they deserve. May the people of my home state not close their hearts and eyes to what is happening here in Gaza and everywhere. May this radicalize us and open our hearts fully. Prayers for all of our freedom. Offering prayers for my dear Demariano, who made his transition 5 years ago today at the tender age of 5. Prayers for his mother, my niece, our family, as we remember his beautiful, kind, and gentle soul. Prayers for my son who is in bondage and for my grandson. May they be reunited soon. Offering prayers for all that are offering prayers for all that are suffering the loss of loved ones. Prayers for Lama Rod, gratitude for the space he holds for us all. Offering prayers for our beloved family pet who is suffering from a terminal disease. And we're offering prayers for Ginger as she moves back into her mold-filled home, that somehow her home gets remediated and she is supported in her health. Offering prayers for my courage in turning toward my confusion and shame, for my courage in feeling and knowing my good heart underneath. Offering prayers for Michelle, Laura, Nadine, my comrades. Offering prayers that I might find some relief from depression in the midst of some ongoing health issues. Offering prayers that my partner may find more lightness and openness. Prayers for our planet and for good growth. Offering prayers for those suffering from war, who have suffered from loss of their ancestral lands. Offering prayers for family and friends suffering from terminal cancer. Prayers for me to get a good paying job I enjoy so I can buy a home with my partner and feel security for the first time in my life. Offering prayers for Janie as she navigates loneliness and fear and hopelessness. Offering prayers for my father, Richard Sherrittler, who died 8 years ago today. May he be released from ancestral suffering and awaken. Offering prayers for me as I do this work and heal so I can support the healing of others. Offering prayers to be vulnerable to receive love and give love. Prayers for my beloved cat, companion, familiar, Dublin, who is currently practicing on my lap, who has been with me for 17 years and is preparing for his transition. Prayers also for me that I may trust his signal when he's ready and that I may move through this and so many coming transitions with a grounded, true openness. And offering prayers for my health to support and build my immune system. And offering prayers for me for finding meaningful work, prayers for peace and freedom in the West Bank and Gaza, prayers for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, delivery of ample humanitarian aid, and for safe permanent homes for all who have been displaced. Prayers for Netanyahu, may he be free of his mental afflictions. Prayers for my sister Kyla, who is suffering great heartbreak. And prayers for safety and easeful delivery of our new baby into this world in the next 3 weeks. Prayers we find the care we need. Maybe we all have all that we need to be free and support her freedom. Offering prayers for those trees we are planting. May they root into the earth this winter with strength and health to become refuge for many beings who share this land. Offering prayers for my partner as I offering prayers for my partner and I as we do the work of facing our traumas and taking accountability for ourselves. Prayers that we can hold each other with compassion and rely on and continue to care for our communities. Offering prayers for Aaliyah, who is receiving chemo for aggressive breast cancer. May she and her family have ease and grace in the process. May the community continue to show up with great love. Offering prayers for my brother Michael and for my friend Richard, may they find healing and freedom. Offering prayers for me as I seek to leave my current job and find a place where I am celebrated and not just tolerated. And offering prayers for my dog Pixie, who is very, very old. Offering prayers for deep healing of a very old wound that was reopened many times in childhood, of having deepest source of comfort taken away by one means or the other, the shock, contraction, the shattering loss of the true felt sense in the body of care being available from any source. I know this isn't true, but the somatic memory has arisen with lots of physical symptoms. Prayers to release all of this, including physical healing, into this central truth of the great care of so many beings available to myself and others. Offering prayers for many friends, mothers of children who are having physical problems. May the mothers and children be healed. For my children and their children, may we all know love and healing. Offering prayers for deep pain being felt. Sorry, prayers for the deep pain feeling lost, the deep pain of feeling lost. And offering prayers for the people of Sudan and all who are suffering from the ravages of war. And I continue to offer prayers for my great aunt, Mary Alice, passing into the bardo and the spirit world. I offer prayers for the healthy, successful delivery of Stacy's child, for the continued path of healing for Yasmin, and continued prayers for my uncle, Daniel, still recovering from his accident. We continue to offer prayers for all beings trapped in systems of authoritarianism, harm, violence, famine, war, genocide, that all systems of violence be completely abolished as quickly as possible, and that we all experience the utmost complete freedom as quickly as possible. And as we turn back, just briefly into our practice, I just encourage you to imagine, in whatever way feels appropriate, releasing the blessings of this practice into the world. And we can imagine that by imagining that as Medicine Buddha pours into our hearts, that we begin to be filled with this energy of healing, and that we too just begin to overflow the blessing of healing from Medicine Buddha into the world. So at no point are you emptying out or getting depleted. You're just overflowing from the flow that you're receiving from Medicine Buddha to feel deep care, nourishment, and healing, and to offer the overflow effortlessly into the world is what we can imagine in the last part of our practice together and the mantra practice. Okay, so we begin again. O te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata begenze begenze ma begenze raza sumungate soa. Te ata And just taking in, just one more kind of stream, this last bit of stream of healing energy from Medicine Buddha. And just pouring out into the world just one last time. And then returning your attention back to this maybe feeling or experience of being filled with this blessing of Medicine Buddha. We turn our attention back to the Medicine Buddha above us. We thank Medicine Buddha for their support, their healing. We imagine that they begin to dissolve into white light, and that white light is absorbed into our heart centers. We thank all of our benefactors who appeared for us in this practice to support us. We thank them for their support. And we invite them to return back to where they came from to be with us. So returning our attention to the seat, to the weight of your body, allow yourself to come back into this timeline. And when you feel ready, awakening the body through some simple movements. Maybe a few deep cleansing breaths as well. And slowly we'll start turning our attention to Shantideva's prayer, which will be in our chat box. And we'll recite this 3 times. We'll begin. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as the earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach until the ends of space. And finally, may I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, I always support the life of all the balanced creatures, and until they pass away from pain, I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach unto the ends of space. And then just imagine there's a bell going off. All right. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Um, I just want to thank all of you too for just, I see so many wonderful things happening with the practices that some of you are doing in the world, the spaces that you're organizing. Um, and it's so wonderful. Just like the book events, the discussion, book discussion groups that some of you are organizing, and the 7 homecoming spaces, and the Harriet Tubman space that I see some of you working on. Like, all this is great. And just always remember that I inspire you to do this. So that's really all I wanted to say. I just wanted to kind of bring it back to me. So, and I'll see some of you this weekend in Durham on Friday and Saturday, and then I'll be um, in Asheville next week with Lama Justin for a day-long retreat, and then I'll see some of you at Southern Dharma for the retreat end of next week. Um, and in between that, I'll see some of you on Sunday for Love and Rage as well. So lots happening. And yeah, so yeah, thank you all so much. Mother Harriet Liberation Practice from Eli. That's really wonderful. And I think that's it from me. I won't be here next week, just to let you know. I won't be here because I don't know where I will be. So that's where we're at. I'm going to be somewhere between Durham and Asheville, but who knows where that's going to be. But I'll see you the week after next, okay?
Lama Rod, can I sneak in an announcement real quick?
Yeah.
If anyone is curious about getting the resources that Lama Rod has created and made available to maybe explore the possibility, begin to relate to maybe sharing community-led practice when opportunities arise, that's available out there. No pressure or expectation whatsoever. We have some materials that there's like 2 recordings of like training sessions that Lama Rod did, as well as a little written guide to support you. And we have all those materials available. If you would like to throw your name in the hat as to be included on the list of folks so that when opportunities arise, we send it out. Um, yeah, just send me an email and we'll get you on that list. Again, no pressure. It's very open and flexible, but everyone is extremely supportive of each other's community shares. So I recommend it if that sounds interesting to you. And other people probably have wiser things to say on that front.
Oh, and so also, I know this is going to be really disappointing for some of you, but there will not be a holiday frolic this year. I know, no, I know. I'm tired. I want to end this year early. Like maybe next year we'll bring it back. But my vision for the holiday frolic was a drag show slash 1 day retreat together. So I was tired of doing that on my own. So the hope one day is to have like a real 1 day retreat where it's just gonna be just overwhelming and camp and like traumatizing and all of that, which is what my goal for the trauma for the holiday frolic has always been. Is to just overwhelm some of you. It's too much energy. So I was like, we'll frolic next year. I know. You won't get to hear my signature Christmas Carol practice that I love doing every year, but there may be another way for me to do the Christmas Carol practice. All right, I think that's it, everyone. Thank you so much. Get involved with all these practices. There's so much happening, and I'll see some of you online or in person in the next week. All right. Thank you all.